My dog used to be convinced he'd get in trouble for farting, so he'd sneak off like some stealthy ninja. He'd enter a room, let one rip, and then quietly leave. Honestly, I think he knew just how awful they smelled. One time, my dog was sniffing around a tree and accidentally bumped into a dandelion. He yelped and jumped back in fear. I still tease him about the day he was terrified by a dandelion. We have a chicken with scissor beak, a condition causing its beak to grow at strange angles. Without extra care, it would starve. We feed her every morning and evening, and she gets so excited at these times. One evening, while my wife was preparing her food, the chicken went wild, throwing itself at the cage door until it managed to break free. It burst out in a flurry of feathers. My wife, holding a cup of baby food and supplies, turned just in time to have the chicken slam into her face. She flailed around, dropping the food, the feeding syringe, and probably a few years of her life, all while trying to catch the frenzied bird. Refusing to calm down, the chicken perched on her head and stayed there as she prepared a fresh batch of food. My dog refused to come inside from the front yard, so I rang the doorbell. She immediately bolted indoors, racing to the window to see who was at the door. At 4 p.m. every day, my dogs sit at the front window, watching for me to come home from work. They've kept this habit even though I've been working from home for a year now. Last night, while feeding my snake, she missed the rat, accidentally bit herself, and then panicked, thinking something was biting her. My goldfish gets ridiculously excited during feeding time. More often than not, it ends up jumping right out of its bowl and into my hand where I'm holding the food. It's like it has a death wish. Still, I adore that silly fish. She passed gas, then turned around, growled, and barked at her own rear end. My greyhound finally caught up to a squirrel at the park before it darted up a tree. She slowed down, sniffed it, and just watched as it climbed the tree. She seemed completely let down by the whole encounter. My cat fell asleep in the sun on the garden fence and must have forgotten where she was. She stretched out, rolled over as usual when waking up, and went straight into the pond. She hates water. At 4 a.m., I woke to the sound of my cat's "I've caught something" noise, a mix of squeaks, meows, and happy trills. She was running closer and closer, the noise muffled by whatever was in her mouth. Since I live somewhere with very few mice or pests, I assumed it was one of her toys she wanted to show off. Then she dropped an entire bag of bagels on my face. My dog constantly begs my mom for fruit, tries it, spits it out because she doesn't like it, and then continues begging for more. My guinea pigs get so thrilled about fresh vegetables that they toss them around in excitement before eating. Whole tomatoes are the funniest. They hit each other with them, and instead of eating their own, they focus on stealing the other's tomato while repeatedly getting smacked in the head. My cat screamed like she was being attacked because she thought she was alone. The moment I walked out, she saw me and let out the cutest little meow. I love when my cats fall off something, get embarrassed, and immediately start grooming themselves with an "I meant to do that" attitude. It took a while for my pup to figure out how to scratch his face. Instead, he kept kicking himself in the face with his back leg. He's better at it now, but still occasionally gives himself a little kick instead of a proper scratch. One of my parents' cats licks her left paw but cleans her face using her right paw, and vice versa. My 85-pound pit bull mastiff rescue mutt is absolutely terrified of my neighbor's tiny French bulldog. When he sees her, he bolts at full speed, dragging me along behind him. Years ago, we had a glass-topped kitchen table. Our dog, lying beneath it, watched us eat and decided to jump up and grab some food, only to be stopped by the glass top. Ouch. Once, I had to give my cat medicine with a syringe, and he hated it so much that he ran away every time he saw me with it. But if I shook a bag of Temptations treats, he'd come running without fail. I'd catch him, give him the medicine, and he'd bolt. Then I'd shake the bag again to give him the second dose, and he'd come running right back. Every single time. I have no idea what's in those treats to make them so irresistible. My cat bit into a glass plate, got frustrated that she couldn't eat it, then went to bother the fish. In the process, she ended up falling straight into the fish tank. We have a large German Shepherd, and a couple of years ago, on a humid summer night, a thunderstorm was brewing. Doggo was napping in the backyard while we had a small barbecue, just me and my wife. As she slept, she made little yips and woofs, and her legs were moving like she was running in her dream. Thunder and lightning began far off over the bay, and we were enjoying the view. Suddenly, a massive crack and flash of lightning appeared overhead. Startled and half asleep, the dog bolted down the yard and crashed headfirst into the side of the kids' bouncy castle. She ricocheted off at an angle and tumbled straight into the paddling pool, completely wiping out. It was at that moment she fully woke up, sitting in the pool, confused about why she was wet while we were doubled over laughing. She got a burger from the barbecue as a consolation prize. My dad was doing an oil change on his car and had set the tray of used oil aside to deal with later. Our cat decided that the tray made a perfect spot for a nap. I have 3 cats, and I often compare them to the 3 bears from Goldilocks. One uses the litter box, gets disgusted by the smell, and bolts out like it's chasing him, sometimes leaving a hanger behind that we discover later. Another will stay in the box, meticulously burying his mess for 2 to 3 minutes, as if he's a pirate hiding treasure. Finally, there's the one who does everything just right. She finishes her business, gives it a quick sprinkle of litter, and exits the box with all the grace and dignity in the world. My greyhound is a retired racing dog who hasn't experienced much snow in his life. He absolutely loves it, except for the time he saw his first snowman. He screamed, as greyhounds do, like it was the most horrifying thing he'd ever encountered. My cat is quite the unique little thing. One day, she had the zoomies, tearing across the hardwood floor at full speed. In the middle of her wild sprint, she decided her ear was itchy and stopped to scratch it. Then, mid-scratch, she decided her paw was dirty and needed to be cleaned. The result? She ended up kicking herself in the face repeatedly, her tongue flapping around, all while sliding backward on her butt across the floor since stopping apparently wasn't part of the plan.